Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starcic. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 45th Recovery Freedom Rising podcast. I'm Milan Starcic with co-hosts Sara Lee and Cris W. Today's topic is rock bottom and the gift of desperation. Sara, can you tell us what this means to you and why you chose this topic today?
I chose rock bottom because it's something that I reflect on the daily to remind myself, like, that's not where I want to be in life, and I want to just keep growing. And it was a really scary time in my life. But it got me to where I am today, and I'm a little grateful for that. So, yeah.
Awesome. Cris?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about rock bottom for you?
Yeah, I think for me, I had a different outlook of what rock bottom was. Like, I've always had this like thought of how would you put it? Like, rock bottom was being homeless, jobless, on the street, on that side of things. But then when I sort of went through what I went through, I found like my rock bottom was more of a spiritual sort of emotional rock bottom, to where I got to on that. And that like the gift of desperation. Yeah. Like, I think that's one thing I always remember coming into treatment and then coming into recovery, to not to forget on that side. So, yeah.
Yeah, oh man, I gotta agree with you on that rock bottom of like not having thinking that I had to be homeless, thinking I had to be picking up cans, thinking I had to be living down by the river, thinking I had to be a male prostitute or something, like all these things of like, the moral sacrifices and also the physical sacrifices. And I find it quite similar to like my lack of knowledge of what an addiction was.
Exactly.
Man, for years, I had no admission of powerlessness because I thought that I wasn't an alcoholic or an addict at points, because I could shut the tap off here and there. And that just left me to destroy myself further, really, overall. And, and then the gift of desperation, holy moly, I think it's a gift. Like like getting to that point where you can actually have that humility and honesty to call yourself an addict, that open-mindedness to like, whatever the fuck you show me, I'll do because I'm desperate. Like, I never would have embraced the program the way I did without that gift. And I would never want to have spent the rest of my life without the program.
Yes. Yeah.
Like for me, it's such a gift. And having these tools has changed my life completely. And, if it means that I had to go through what I went through, then that's just the way that life is. The gift of desperation is probably one of the greatest gifts I've ever had. If you look at it like a gift, Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you have a question you'd like to ask Cris, Sara?
Do you think that you had more than one rock bottom?
Yeah. So I like looking back now on my journey, I think I had a number of rock bottoms. Like, funny enough, I was thinking about it yesterday, before coming onto the podcast on it. It was like, I think first my rock bottom was me thinking that leaving Australia would sort of solve my problems, right? So doing that isolation part where I was like, okay, new place, new me. But then I found that it took me away from what I really needed to deal with on that side. So that, my first rock bottom, or the start of it, would be like isolating myself away from people that actually knew me on that. And then from there, coming to Canada, I was like, okay, my second rock bottom would be probably that emotional rock bottom, missing something emotionally in me, not having the connections I had with people over here that I had back home in Australia. And then I think that like the spiritual rock bottom hit me hard, right? Where it was more so like, okay, like I've got everything on the outside. I've got a career. I still have a place. I still have a car. I still have clothes. But spiritually, I was hitting my rock bottom where I was like, why do I feel so empty still? Why do I feel like a shell? So that was my sort of rock bottom. And then I think the last part of it was when I woke up one morning in my active addiction, and I still had a place, I still had clothes, I still had a job and everything like that there. But when you look in the mirror and you don't recognize yourself, right? And that saying, even the devil wouldn't take me in, that's what hit me there. That was when I was at rock bottom where I'm like, who are you? Looking in the mirror on that side. So yeah.
Nice. Wow, that was nicely put there.
Yeah.
And a nice broad answer. I would say like I had a few little skids on my way down, but nothing really was like the last 6 months. Like they get you to do the last 90 days. Anybody who doesn't know out there, first of all, we all went to Options Treatment Center, the three of us, and Sara and Cris are recovery siblings. They were they were in Options together at the same time. I don't even know if did you guys meet there?
Yeah, well, it was funny. Like our paths have crossed. So this is honestly, I like that reading out of our literature. Like nothing in God's world happens by mistake, right? And I think me and Sara, we met years ago in our active addiction, right? And it was a brief moment we met. And then when I came back into the rooms at the start of last year, I saw her face there and I was like, okay, I know this girl from somewhere, but I don't know where. And then when I finally stopped digging for my rock bottom, I got myself into treatment, I saw her there. I'm like, yeah, I know her. And then just like our connection is weird because like I knew like in Options, there's a wall of the people that didn't, make it, unfortunately. And I remember we're sitting in group one day and I was like, I know that guy. And out of nowhere, Sarah was like, yeah, that's my cousin. I'm like, holy crap. So our connection has been really strong in that sense. I think that like my higher powers put me in a position where the people that I need in my life at the moment, he's sort of said, hey, this is the people you've had in the past, like they're going to help you in your recovery. And we've just been we've been close ever since, to be honest. We connect every day. And it's like, she is like my recovery sister. Like she's met my family on FaceTime and I've met most of her family over here. So we're pretty strong on that side. So
it's awesome. I'm still close with some of the pack there that I went with, and I think it's kind of like a real transformational time. You do some really deep sharing in there. That sharing, like kind of like I felt like at the end of my 35 days at Options, some of those people knew me better than any of my friends ever had in my whole life, hands down. Like not even close. Like there was just no time that I even knew myself enough to share that much of myself to anybody else before that. And so it's awesome. I like to see that because that shows that you're fostering your healthy community, right? And that's really important. Like we need other like, oh look, oh sorry, you couldn't see that shit. Anyway, there was these crazy birds, these crazy flock of birds just went by, and I was like, yeah. You know what? Maybe I'm going to just turn off the background for the rest of the show because then you'll get to potentially see. Yeah, I'll just turn this a little bit like that. I can be over here.
Love it.
Yeah, we give a little different vibe there. Okay. So for me and the multiple rock bottom, like there was just no pain like the end. I had gotten really sick of alcohol. Like my last few alcohol experiences over the last say year and a half, every single time, like, and it wasn't even like a maybe. It was like every single time
Yeah.
there was like a flaming asshole at it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, the hard liquor,
Yeah.
fuck, that guy shouldn't touch whiskey, or that guy shouldn't touch whatever. And
Yeah.
like, and it wasn't even me.
Mm.
I'm sure that I did my own share of troublemaking in those
Yeah.
parties, but there was just like a sickening display of
Yeah.
like bad actions from alcohol. Like
Yeah.
people that I was having a good morning with, by lunch I was wanting to just sever them from my life forever. And
Mm.
it was it really turned me off alcohol. But all
Yeah.
that did was make me do more drugs. So
Yeah.
like, and so inside that, that was really ramping up, you know, like it was
Mm.
turning into an everyday thing.
Mm.
And it was really decaying my health. Like, I'm just not sure how much either one of you have delved into cocaine, but there's a point, man, where your body's just
Yeah.
your body's just like screaming, please don't put any more there. Like, please,
Yeah.
please
Yeah.
stop putting it more. And it's like ridiculous. It's like you're washing out your nose just to try and fit a little more in.
Yes. Yes.
And it was,
Yeah.
and like, it was just like a real,
Yeah.
man, I know there was nights where it was like, fuck, this could kill me. And I'm leaning over and doing
You would.
another
Yeah.
rip. And
Yeah.
like, it was
Yeah.
absolutely insane. And there was like, so
Yeah.
you talk about like the spiritual bankruptcy
Yeah.
and emotional bankruptcy. Well,
Yeah.
it was like twice in that last year. I remember my wife, like,
Yeah.
this just kills me.
Yeah.
Like, her looking me right in the eyes, like, you know, like, act not even meanly, but just
Yeah.
like asking me if I was high, because she
Yeah.
was so worried about me. Like, my color, when I look back at the pictures, you know, my color was off, my eyes were
Yeah.
so off. I was so unhealthy looking.
Yeah.
And and like, in my brain saying, tell
Yeah.
her the truth. Tell, like,
Yes.
tell her the truth.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I'm lying just so I could
Mm.
continue using for the rest of the day. And
Yeah.
inside that, that was like, you're a fucking addict now. Like, the shame and the guilt of
Yeah.
those couple
Yeah.
moments, like, where I'm directly lying to her. And she's knowing it, but she's like,
Yeah.
you know, there's no, like, she doesn't have a piss test in her pocket or
Yeah.
something like
No.
that. And that, like,
Yeah.
that just broke my heart. And then what was happening in the last 6 months for me was that I was starting to experience a really high level of social anxiety, where it was like
Yeah.
when people were like rude or negative to me, it
Yeah.
was like my little callous shell was shattering, and it would
Yeah.
make it so like I was almost in fear of going out to see people, you know,
Yeah.
which is my entire livelihood and my entire life, like,
Yeah.
which is, like, talk about isolating. It was like, yeah, I was hiding. I was
Yeah.
isolating to hide.
Yeah.
And but then, you know, my heart stopping in the hospital, that only happened once in my life.
Mm.
And
Yep.
there was just nothing ever that even 100 scared me as much as
Yep.
that moment or the last 6 months leading up to it. And
Yeah.
anyway, so what I was talking about options is, yeah, like, they get you to do your last 90 days, but
Yeah.
really for me, it should have been my last 6 months. Like,
Yeah.
it was really, those six
Yep.
months were kind of like one continuous downward
Yeah.
spiral. You know, like, I feel like when I did the last 90 days, I started in the middle of my
Yep.
my spiral. Like, I was like, oh, this is the, and I'm like, can I
Mm.
go a little further? They're like, no, do this, you know, and I was like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
taking suggestions. But anyway,
Yeah.
so I really don't feel that I did have multiple rock bottoms. I feel like I had like a couple slaps in the face of
Yep.
like, this is
Mm.
bad for me. This isn't good. But nothing was like that final bit, and like my, like,
Mm.
facing death and being scared of it forever. Like, you know, like, I would say, you know, when you say you look at that desperation, it's like, all I have to do is think of that moment of fear. Like, I
Yeah.
don't have to rewind the tape. I just
No.
push song 3, and it
Yeah.
starts death, and I'm like, okay, back. Like, what
Yeah.
do I got to
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
Where's my program? Where's my program?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally get it. I totally get it. And that's the funny part because my DOC was cocaine for a long time. And like you said, when you're at a point where you just continuously do it and you're like, I can't keep doing this. But then the shame, I relate to you what you said about the shame part, where I remember at the time my ex-partner, he was in cardiology at the hospital, and one night I was so high, he was showing everyone how to do like your heart rate test, and he was like, "Your turn, Chris," and he put his Apple Watch on my wrist, and he saw my heart rate, and he's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." He's like, so he pulled me aside, and same thing too. He was like, "Are you high at the moment on like blow?" I said, "No, I'm good." And then he's like, "Your heart rate's telling me something otherwise." And I'm like, "No, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I've just had too much Red Bull." And he's like, "No, Chris." But then again, too, the shame was like, "Fuck, this is your time to say it." But then it's like, "No, fuck it. I'm not gonna say anything." And then the shame of it was like, "Well, he's caught me out. I'll keep doing it." You know what I mean? So it was just that instant, like, and that's the addict that I know for a fact it's in me. The ego is like, "Well, I can't say that." Right. So yeah.
I had my partner, it's kind of the same thing. Like if when I would be so loaded on blow, he would, and he knew, but he didn't want to point it out, but he would come and feel my wrist. And I would snatch it away, and then I started getting like mad about it every time he would grab my wrist. And I'm like, stop doing that. But like obviously I was like so loaded. Just like hiding it, and like and then I'd go do a rip and have a little shot, and just it was bad.
It's funny how the shame keeps you out of it, but the addiction keeps you in it from with that shame.
I was never straight enough for the shame to win overall. You know, like, and they're just, you know, without the tools of the steps, there just wasn't happiness in sobriety for me. And so like I might as well be numb than be unhappy.
You
know,
totally get that. I totally get that.
Okay, so Sarah, now you've got to answer your multiple rock bottom question. Would you like to ask yourself the question again?
Yeah. So my multiple rock bottoms, I think that it was going on for like, I would say like a year and a half of like just like drinking, going out, going to the casino. And I just couldn't stop. Like me and my partner would go out partying to the casino, and he'd be able to stop, but I just couldn't. And then it just got like stronger and stronger. Like, and then I would be hiding it from him. And like, with my family, like I would stop talking to my sister, or like she would ask me a bunch of questions, and I would avoid like one question, like just avoiding situations that I shouldn't have been. You know, I got into a really bad car accident, and I don't remember any of it. So that wasn't even it for me. I went back out, and I was full of shame and guilt and embarrassed. And I went and like hid for about 4 weeks, and I didn't talk to anybody. And I had some people that I partied with, but what got me was I wasn't feeling like the drugs, doing all the blow and drinking, it wasn't taking away my pain anymore. Like it was just, I wasn't cutting it. Like I couldn't even breathe through my nose because I was snorting so much blow. And it's like, I was alone, like I was by myself in this apartment. And then I was like, you know what? Like I can't live like this anymore. Like there's nothing left to help me. Like the drugs aren't helping, the alcohol's not helping. And I just put myself into treatment, and like getting the tools, like you said, is the best decision of my life.
You know, like I just feel like for myself, without that turning point, I never would have had the open mind. You know, I went to this meeting, and there was a guy just a couple days ago. There was a guy with 41 years of sobriety there. And his whole thing was like, you know, he said, I've been in a lot of these rooms, and he said, you know, like a share doesn't impress me. He said, you know, when you start sharing like you're a master versus sharing like you're a student. He's like, you are probably being complacent. And it was, you know, he's like, if I want to see someone's program, I'll watch how they act once they walk out that door right there. He's like, it's got nothing to do with the words you can put together for 3 minutes. And he was just, he had this so like calmness and serenity about him. But it was like, I've heard it before where it's like, you want to remain a seeker, they say, inside the program. And it's like, it's that open-mindedness that made me hungry to learn what the tools are in this program, right? And it's just like, I just don't want to lose that ever.
No, I totally get that. And I think last time I spoke on your podcast, I like to see the people that have like the rawness about it, like coming into the meeting rooms and just listening to a lot of people's shares where it's vulnerability. I like to hear, because when you're vulnerable, you're going through something, and then you're there to share your experience on that side, right? Compared to the people that go into the rooms and it's like, I don't know, I hate to say it, but that self-help sort of talk where you can do it, we've done this, all that sort of stuff, right? And it's the same message that you hear, but with different wording. So like, yeah, I do get that. And then I think for me too, it's like, I know my ego is my addict. Like my ego will take me out. And there's times where I have to sit back, and if I say something, I'm like, is that my ego speaking in this situation? Or is it really like, is it coming from, if it's coming from the heart, it sounds a lot different on that, right? So, and one thing that Shirley taught me in options is that she said something in a meeting one time, and me and Sarah were sitting there, and she was like, he needs to be careful on how he talks because he's only got so much clean time, but he's starting to sound like an old timer, right? I remember that day. And then that really put me into check, because I'm like, okay, I've only got so many months clean. I don't want to start sounding like an old timer, right? Thinking I have it and that there. So when people say that around you, it does put into light, like, okay, am I actually working recovery, or am I talking about recovery, right? So there's a difference. Yeah.
It's a program of action, not a program of memorization. Not like when my sponsees come and they're like, okay, I got these 50 questions done. I'm like, you're not getting a mark on this.
Yes.
Like it's not about how many questions you do. It's about, have you understood what they're trying to unlock in your brain? Like we got to pause. We got to pause and we got to talk about, what is the fundamental thing they're asking you here? Like turn the cube over, see the other side, look at it all, and then because it's about opening your mind to concepts that you obviously didn't know. If you had the whole program in your brain, why the fuck are you working the steps? You already live in the steps.
Exactly.
It's just not that, Okay, you got a question you want to ask me, Chris?
Yeah. Okay. So I really like the gift of desperation, right? Did you have a number of gifts of desperation, or was there one whole gift of desperation that you received where you're like, you know what, this is it for me, right? Like,
well, I mean, it's kind of similar to the rock bottom question, but
and can you remember that gift of desperation when you're like, you know what, I am done, and
It really was that one. It was that one moment, like, that's like the close my eyes and like I said, I don't even need to rewind the tape. I don't even need to play a tape. I just go blink and I'm like, no, don't want to go there. Blink, don't want to go there. But that gift has never left me.
Yes.
Not even for a fleeting second. Like, I think that some people are like, sometimes, I need reminding. I'm still scared shitless from that moment. Like I am scared shitless of ever being there again in that same state. Like I think getting older and dying will be a lot different than what was happening with me. Like, on that night, and I've also been thinking about that and trying to have some kind of acceptance of when that does come. Because I don't want an overall fear of death to be ruling life. Right. But as far as motivating me to take care of myself so that I have an average lifespan, that is a definite happening, you know? So yeah, like I I honestly hope I don't ever get a gift that strong again. Like, you
Yeah.
know, like it's like
Yeah.
that one was enough. That one's enough.
Yeah.
Like I don't need another one. I'm scared.
Yeah.
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 Hmm.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Sarah.
Sarah?
Yeah, I think I have a few. Like, you know, I always want to have a good sleep because I remember just being so loaded that it would be a struggle to go to sleep, and like being up when the sun comes up, still loaded on cocaine. Like that's the worst feeling. And I think that's what like really, like I have that in my head all the time. Like I don't ever want to wait. I don't want to have to try to go to sleep like that again. Like feeling like that anxious and like that paranoid and like, just like, it's just not, no. And then getting like hitting that vehicle that when I was loaded last year, it'll be March 15th. So it's coming up to a year since that happened.
Wow.
I know. So
Was
like
anybody hurt in that accident?
no, just my little puppy was with me. I'm sure he's traumatized when he goes in a vehicle with me now, but like nobody was hurt. And yeah, like I think even like I'd be terrified to drive right now. But yeah, just my gifts of desperation is just I want to always have a good sleep. Like I love sleeping now. So I'm just so grateful that that has happened and I can look back on that and
you know, I used to say sleeps for pussies when I used to do when I used to do drugs. And now it is like the difference between me even having the option for serenity and not.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, like if I don't sleep, if I don't get enough sleep, man, my resentments are like dirty effect.
Yeah.
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 And what about you, Chris?
So for me, it was a number of things where I was desperate, but until I was ready to receive the gift of desperation, having that open-mindedness. So I can really think of a number of things that came to mind for me. I believe in my higher power because he put me on so many different paths on where I ended up. But I remember, like, because I used to use by myself at home with no one else, but my cats would see me. And it would be, the cats would pick up this energy on me where I'd be getting antsy and then I'd be texting my dealer and saying, hey, come and pick up. And then the cats would have this like energy of like, not now, not again. And my one cat, Mila, she would look at me and she would stare at me and she would like claw at me when I was about to leave. And I'm like, I'll be back. And then you could tell that she was like, not again, not again. You know what I mean? And it got to the point, And then, so I would pick up and then I would drive. So funny thing is, I literally only live around the corner from Options. I didn't know that this treatment center was a treatment center. And I literally live less than a 5-minute walk from Options. I would drive that back road. And every time I drive that back road past Options, I would, for some reason, my last 3 months of my active addiction, I would break down crying in the car. I would cry. And I remember saying to myself, this is it. This is the last time. You got to sort your shit out. And again, it didn't happen. And I'd get home and then the cats would not come around me. They would be like hiding underneath the bed or just like nothing to do with me on that side, right? So I think it is like there were so many desperate parts of my life until that one morning I woke up. And the same thing too, like it was like I woke up and I thought to myself, no one knows how bad my addiction is. They knew that there was something wrong. And even the thought of like me waking up in my condo, like by myself and someone having to call my parents in Australia or even my family back home, that was like, that's it for me. Like that was a gift of desperation that I received on that side. Like I am done. And then I remember driving to a friend's place that Friday morning where I'm like, I need to come see you. I need to check in. I need to find a treatment center of some sort. And then when I said it out loud, like, I am an addict and I am struggling, that's what really got me like hard. Like I would cry in the truck saying, I have an addiction problem, right? And so that was the hardest part there for me. So yeah.
I don't remember saying it was the last time. Like now that you say that, like when I was getting loaded, I never put it in my head like this is the last time. Like I just went hard, and then I just went to treatment. Like
when I woke up from getting out of the hospital, my friends, I guess, they sedated me, right? Like
oh wow,
put me on benzos or something like that afterwards. And I woke up at my friend's daughter's place, did not know where I was, but my very first thought was, I'm free. I don't have to do that ever again.
Yeah.
It was a real, like, it was like I had like a forced soul surrender that night. And before I knew what, like, I was like, oh, and I'm all excited. And I'm like, yay, like I'm done. Like it was like the fight was over. And I go back to the hotel to pack up my stuff. They had called my wife. She was flying in to come drive us home.
Yeah.
Not happy. But I'm like all happy. I'm like, yay, like this is like I'm free. And she shows up, I'm like, yeah, I'm done. And she's like, yeah, you're done, all right. Like it was not a comfortable feeling.
Yeah.
It was like, it was very strange. Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question, Sarah. Okay, the desperation we once felt in our lives was the opening to a passion for caring, sharing, giving, and growing. Where once we lacked the power to even keep ourselves alive, now we take action in our own lives and in service in others, and we're amazed at the results. How has your passion for caring, sharing, giving, and growing flourished in your recovery?
Ooh, in so many ways, I think. Like at options because I now work there. So it's like one thing that I love to do is leave the clients like a little welcome note or like, and I'll be like, have a nice day. Like you're so strong. I'll give them like an affirmation. And then hearing them after, like at their lunch break or something, they'll come to me and they'll be like, oh, thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for the note. Like it just like lights up their day. And I remember like when I was in treatment, that's what I would look forward to was like a little note. Like it just like, it felt so good. It felt safe. It felt like you were loved and people cared about you there. And, you know, in the rooms, like getting hugs from people, giving hugs back. Like this one lady at the Nooner on Sunday, I hadn't seen her there before. And I just said hi. And then in the meeting she shared, she was like, so many people say hi to me. And it's like, those are actually uplifting moments that I really like love at a meeting is just like, it's so much compassion there, so much love. Like everybody just loves each other there. That's like our whole new family. And my new way of living is great. Like all my friends and family, it's been really raw and I never had that when I was younger either. So yeah.
Do you want me to repeat the question, Chris?
I'm guessing, yeah, better repeat it because I was like, you know, Sarah's answers. I'm like, that's really good.
Yeah, I always get lost in other people's answers. So
like,
I have the question repeated for me every single time. So I'm like, I'm down with doing it.
Yeah. You can repeat it. Yeah.
Yeah. The desperation we once felt in our lives was the opening to a passion for caring, sharing, giving, and growing. Where once we lacked the power even to keep ourselves alive, now we take action in our own lives and in service to others, and we're amazed at the results. How has your passion for caring, sharing, giving, and growing flourished in your recovery?
So that's a really good question. For me, like I left Australia. I have no direct family here now. Like when I moved over here, and so having Sarah and like a lot of people in the fellowship, but even externally on that side, it's put me into a light where I love, as you know, as an alumni of options, we get to go back there. And I go back there once a week for group, and I try to make it to a lot of the alumni meetings if I can. And for me, it's mainly because I connect with a lot of the young guys that go through there, especially guys that are like in their early 20s, where they said, I can't keep doing this. I've got to go into treatment. And for them to be at that age to do it, I wish I was that person at 20 to do that myself, right? And I relate to a lot of the boys in there, like, and especially the men around my age too, because, you know, it's hard to show emotion when it comes to like toxic masculinity, when it comes to this day and age, right? And especially young guys where they're 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 they're, they're they're brought up in a way where you can't show emotions, or you can't be this person, right? Or they can't even be a 23-year-old or a 25-year-old anymore, right? Where society says, go out and have a good time. You can have like mess ups and all that. You're meant to like experiment and, you know, do whatever you do. But for a kid to go in at that age to say, I am an addict, I can't put anything in my system anymore, and I have to look at a new way of life, like it's a daunting thing, right? So for me, showing like going there too and seeing these guys and girls go in where the light is so dim and they have that awakening where you start to see the light go brighter, right? And to be part of their recovery journey too, by, you know, sharing my, you know, experience, strength and hope on that side of things, it helps me to be humble as well too, right? But in saying that too, Sarah has said it, I know Shirley and Susie have said it time and time again, like, I've got to be careful on how I do it because I don't want to be people pleasing, right? On that side. And it's like one of my really good mates, he said yesterday to me, we had a chat. He's like, don't forget, Chris, you have to carry the message, not the addict. And that is so true, right? There's times where, you know, I love this program so much. For me, it's a we program. So to tell people that we've got you in that sense, it's that borderline of, okay, am I carrying the addict or am I carrying the message? And that's something that I've really got to look out for. So it's always that yin and yang, right? There's so much good, but with that good, there can come a lot of bad with it too. So having that balance on that side. So yeah.
You know, somebody put it a good way. It was either yesterday or the day before on the podcast I was doing, and they said, are you doing it because it's the right thing to do, or are you doing it for results?
Yes. That's,
you know, and I really liked that distinction, you know, for me to be able to ask myself just that simple question. You know, it really uncovers a lot of my motivation on what I'm doing, you know, and yeah. Okay, so I'll just ask the question itself again at the end. How has my passion for caring, sharing, giving, and growing flourished in my recovery? Well, like, first of all, I think I actually care now. Like I don't think I really like I feel like I was pretending to do so much when I was high. Like I had so many fair weather friends. Like, you know, and it's real easy to love everybody when you're high as fuck with them. Like it really is. Like, you know, you're standing like, woo, you know, the love is real. Like it because the endorphins are there, just like you're experiencing love, you know, when it's actually real love, except that actually takes acts of kindness and you know, compassion and appreciation. And you know, that's just a different thing I find. You know, the thing I liked about the part of the question is where we once lacked the power to keep ourselves alive. Now we take action in our own lives and in service to others. Like I did not have the power to stop killing myself. And I knew for months and months that it was going on. Like I watched the decay happen. I watched, you know, like even just for talking or singing, like my throat was always sore. My breath amount was reducing. Like you guys are a lot younger than me, but like when I hit about 48 to when I stopped smoking. In fact, yesterday was my 10 months of no cigarettes. Yeah, which like that's like oh damn, yeah. But watching, you know, my inability to breathe progress, you know, was a really scary thing because it's like for you can't breathe, you die. And I've seen a lot of old people struggle for air when they're older. and so, you know, and now we take action in our own lives.
Yeah.
You know, like I've got exercise in my life. I'm
Mm.
not killing myself now, even with smoking or anything
Yeah.
of that sort. I'm doing various forms of exercise, and I'm working
Yeah.
hard at maintaining a program so that I am going forward and not falling backwards. You know, like
Yeah.
it's not always up. It's definitely like this, you know, like kind of
Yeah.
going like going up
Yeah. Yeah.
up
Yeah.
diagonally. It's like, woo, we're gonna
Yeah.
go like but
Oh,
you know, so like I feel that I can care in an entire different way now.
yeah.
I feel that I feel that what I'm sharing is something healthy to other people.
Yeah.
Whereas like, man, I am sure that I dragged a lot of people down a really bad path with
Mm.
my sharing and my addiction.
Mm.
You know, like I was showing a lot of people for a lot of years
Yeah.
that you could party forever and be okay.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, like I was setting a
Yeah.
horrible example.
Mm.
And now that's, you know, now I want to be a beacon of that you can be happy in sobriety.
Yeah.
You know,
That's the way.
it's
Yeah.
it's kind of funny because there's okay, like this is something that kind of like so we're in, you know, like if you do NA and AA, right?
Yeah.
But NA doesn't want you to say clean and sober.
Yeah.
But like, but they like, but sobriety is an easy word for the state of being sober.
Yeah.
What's the easy word for drugs? Like,
Yeah. That's true.
like clean doesn't fit the same position as sobriety does.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yeah.
that I don't know why I tangented there, but you know, I thought maybe you guys would have another word. But
No, no, do you know what? There's times like that where I go. So I jump from both. Like I go to both meetings to get a message from both. I find, for me at times I find sometimes there might be a string of like I hate to say it, trauma dumping when it comes to NA. A lot of trauma
Mhm.
dumping in there. But then when I go to AA, there's a lot of like a lot of solutions there for it, right? We talk about the solutions. We focus more on that. So yeah, I know what you mean. They're very like black and white, if you want to put it, when it comes to like the language in there, which you know,
I'm never
yeah,
gonna forget that phrase, trauma dumping. Oh my
yeah,
God. I see some dump trucks pull up to those meetings. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
open your
yeah,
ears.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you
Oh
know,
my
you gotta
gosh.
get into
Mm.
like you know, and
Mm.
it's interesting on that side of things. But you know, like I always say that if wherever you're getting a message, if it's working for you
Mm.
there, it's working for you there, right? So yeah.
Absolutely. I think I covered most of that question with there.
Nice.
Sarah, do you have a question for Chris?
Um, what are some of the lessons that you've learned in your like going through your rock bottom that you go through in a daily to like keep yourself?
Yeah, that's a good
in
question.
today?
It's funny. So my thing is I always work step one. Like
Mhm.
step one is the most important step for me. I didn't understand that until I left treatment and I looked back at a lot of things. So for me, I know I'm powerless over my addiction and my life has become unmanageable, right? So I break that up into two. I look at it as I know for a fact that the last part of my addiction is the physical act of picking up and getting loaded or getting drunk, right? So I look back at the part where it's like, has my life become unmanageable? And a lot of my rock bottoms, like I said, if my life has become unmanageable, it's like I'm not spiritually connected, I'm not emotionally connected, and I'm not mentally connected in a way on that side, right? And if any of them three have a break in a line of communication, then I know for a fact that the last act of me of physically picking up is the icing on the cake. So I remember that, and it's like I didn't know what it meant by step one until I was in treatment, and it was like a week and a half in treatment. And for some reason, I got this one work email that popped up, and this one work email took me out. I sat there and I read it, and then I don't know what it was like I think being clean for a week and a half, no, and then being in a safe environment where all these emotions are coming through. I read this one email And it was my addiction that was putting words in this email, and my addiction saying, you're not worthy. This is what's going to happen to you. And I remember breaking down, crying in the group room. And then Amy, one of the support workers, she's like, what's going on? I said, I read this email and I'm just like, all this emotion's coming over. And then I'm like, I can't be in here. I need to go. I need to work out what's going on outside of my life and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, do you really want to do that? I said, yeah. And she's like, oh, do you really want to go out and get loaded? I said, I want to go out and get loaded. I don't want to deal with this. And then she sat me down and she said, can you see how your life has become unmanageable? Can you see that your addiction has taken control over you over this one work email? And I was like, wow, you're right. So I work step one on a daily basis where I tell myself, and even so too, like, you know, we're only human. So I don't do it often at times. And then when my life becomes unmanageable, I look at the three aspects of my life and where I hit my rock bottom, because every rock bottom is different. That's what I've learned now. Everyone has a different rock bottom. And it comes down to, am I emotionally connected with my higher power? Am I spiritually connected with my higher power? And am I mentally checked in with things? And if all them three line up, then my day's good. If them three things aren't in that order or aren't sort of connected, then that's when the wheels start falling off, and I've got to take a step back and see why on that. So yeah, really for me, the lesson is my rock bottom didn't go to the point where it's the physical picking up of drugs. It's them three aspects: emotionally, spiritually, and mentally for me, until I hit my rock bottom. So yeah.
Nice. Could you please repeat the question for me?
Yeah. So what are some of the lessons that you got out of your rock bottom that you live by each and every day? Like,
so for whatever reason, as soon as I heard this question, it made me think what we have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition.
Yes.
It was a phrase that me and one of the people that I was in options with, it was kind of something we said to each other all the time. Like, and you know, quite a lot like what Cris was saying, you know, about the unmanageability, right? For me, it's about my emotional sobriety. You know, like having like that rock bottom showed me all the worst of what things could be inside me. And then, you know, kind of, I would say, going into treatment and, you know, just getting that time to focus on just me with as little as I could manifest of the external world affecting me. Like, I didn't get to shut everything off for the whole time I was there. And that's just the fact of how my life is. But the thing about that, what I learned then was about attaining a certain level of emotional sobriety. So it's like kind of from the worst to, you know, almost the best inside 35 days, you know, and so it's like, I know when I'm off center now. I know when I'm prelapsing emotionally. I know which resentments lead to my fuck it moment or the fuck you moment or whatever the, like, you know, the let's go moment, whatever you want to call it. But I know now, like, from just looking at all that stuff and the groups that we did in there and the exercises, that really showed me what I was hiding behind to justify my using. You know, like whether I would be like, oh fuck you, Sarah, you said that to me, I'm going to use, I'm going to be mad at you, I'll be back in 3 days, kind of thing. Oh, Cris, you made me so sad. I'm so sad, I'm going to use, I'm so sad for Cris, even though it's not my sadness. I'm like, I'm taking Chris's sadness and going to use. Hey man, it's Sarah's birthday. I'm like, woo, it's Sarah's birthday. Hey, it's Chris's birthday. Woo. Like, I would just had every single excuse, like positive or negative, wrapped in delusionary, like, so I was like amplifying everything as my enabling. And so, you know, it's like, I don't want to get frantic anymore. I don't want to be Milan at 11, man. I want to be 6 or 7. 6 or 7, Milan is like fucking rocking these days. It's like, woo, I'm doing good. But like, if I'm hitting 11, you know,
Yeah.
like, or even if
Yeah.
I'm hitting zero, because zero is also the point where there was no solution but a drug to pick me up from there. Right.
Yep.
Like, like when I was like crashed hard and like, you know, been up for days. And if I slept, I would have to have something that second I woke up when I was at no energy. You know,
Yeah.
it was the only rebound. And now it's just like I don't let myself get drained. I make sure I'm having enough sleep. I make sure I'm eating. I
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
I'm exercising.
Yeah.
Like for me, a really important part of my thing is exercising. Like exercise gets my blood flowing. It
Yeah.
makes me tired enough to sleep right.
Yeah.
You know, like being lazy, like the reason you don't sleep when you're just lying around is because your body's not tired. You
No.
know, like for myself. And and also too though, it's like when I exercise enough, I feel good about myself. I feel good how it feels to move.
Yeah.
I don't need you to tell me I look good because I feel good. I
Mhm.
Yeah.
feel good. Like, you know,
Yeah.
and when I am just treating my body like shit, I
Yeah.
know it looks like shit.
Mm.
Like I know that. It's like it's not like, I'll put on a baggy shirt and feel skinnier. Like I
Yeah.
just don't. I
Yeah.
just don't. And I
Yeah.
know it. Like and you know, I
Mm.
need to feel good about myself. I
Yeah.
do. Like I don't I'm like anybody who says to me, "Oh, physical doesn't matter at all."
Yeah.
It's just it does to me because
Yeah.
when I am healthy, like I can't have a healthy mind without a healthy body.
Yeah. That's good.
You
Yeah.
know, and if I'm treating my body like shit,
Mm.
it's God, what did someone put it there the other day? It's like it's a lack of self-love.
Mm.
It's a lack of self-love if you're doing something that's damaging your body like knowingly.
Mm.
So then it's like hiding in like a non-acceptance and
Yeah.
non-self-acceptance and non-self-love.
Yeah.
And that can be keeping you from loving others.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Just
I like that. Yeah.
you know,
That's a really good way.
when someone said it like that, I was like, whoa. I'm like, now I'm gonna have to just take it up a notch because I want to
Yeah.
love people more. So
Yeah.
I love myself a little more.
Yeah. Yeah. I like
Hmm.
that. I like that. Self-love. Yeah. It's good.
Okay,
Mm.
Sarah, you want to answer your question?
Yeah, for me, it changed since I got out of treatment. In the beginning, I was doing like the same routine, like reading the pages in the big book that we would read at 9 o'clock at the table together. Like that kept me sane for like the first couple weeks until I grew like a stronger connection, like a consistent connection with my higher power.
Mm.
And now it's like, for me, I do steps 1, 2, and 3, but I can lay in bed and meditate and just like really pray and just have that like 5, 10 minutes of connecting with my higher power. And I feel back to myself. Like then my day is good. I'm not agitated. I'm not trying to rush around. Like I used to always just wake up and jump out of bed and try to start my day and have a million things go in my head, trying to get everything done at once and putting so much pressure on myself. Like, so I think, yeah, just having a strong connection with my higher power for me is one of the biggest lessons that I go in it every day for myself. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Chris, you got a question for me?
Yeah. So, knowing your rock bottom, have you spoken openly about it to your close support group, like your family, about it, so they know the signs to see?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So I told Michelle right when I got out of options,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
if I'm start slacking on meetings, start
Yeah.
worrying.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
like I really don't care when people say 90 and 90 days.
Yeah.
For myself, I'm quite happy to do a meeting every single day, maybe missing one or two a month. It
Yeah.
it keeps me in a state of being able to put myself in someone else's shoes. And
Yeah.
it also keeps me in a state like, you know, I find meetings great reminders of what it's like in the early days. You know, there's always somebody new And
Mhm.
it also is keeps me in the state of like, wow, look what that person has. I want some of that serenity. You know, like
Yeah.
I feel like every meeting I go to, there's somebody starting out and there's somebody awesome, you know, and I want to just start sliding towards awesome. And I never want to forget about starting out, you
Yeah.
know? So yeah, I would say that that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Mm.
And
Nice.
Sarah?
You have to ask me again.
So, knowing your rock bottom and your behaviors leading to rock bottom, have you been open about it with your close network group, like your family?
Well, I remember talking to you about it when we first got out of treatment.
Yeah,
I was like, if I don't answer you, or if I'm like short answers, and you know something's up. Like I remember having that discussion with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah. Yeah, it was funny. Yeah, because we had this conversation. So to answer my question, like with Sarah, I remember when we both came out of treatment, because she just did she did the day program, and I had graduated, I think, prior to the day program. And then it was Shirley. Shirley was like, what is your biggest fears? I'm like, my biggest fear coming out of treatment is the fact that I don't have close friends. And she's like, who are you kidding? You and Sarah are gonna be like best friends. And then legit, we have been.
Yeah.
And there are times where Sarah knows me too well and I know her too well, right? And like I've always said, when it comes to friendships, I love friendships that hold me accountable. When people will tell me black and white, like straight shooter, Cris, you're not working the program, or Cris, you're behaving like this, right? And I said to Sarah, for me, it's more about the isolation. I'll start to isolate. I become negative, right? And then I become
just
really
shutting down with your emotions.
Yeah, I shut down with my emotions. But
I
then,
can always tell with like a text or something.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I shut down. But then, there's times too for us. Like I love Sarah; she's like a sister to me. I know my behavior is like if I experience a new emotion in recovery, like because people see me, people that really know me, you see me as a happy-go-lucky, always positive. But there's days where I'll hit this emotional, like I think waterfall where it hits me all at once, and I've got to experience it, right? Because in the past, when it hits me, I'm like, fuck this, let's get loaded, let's put this aside, and I'll deal with it later. Whereas now it's like I need to experience this. I need to
feel it.
I need to feel it. I need to respect it. And if I can go through it, then I know what I can do through this. And I think it was hard at our first part of our friendship because I would go through something like, I think in the first 6 months of my recovery, like I had a great sponsor, and unfortunately they had relapsed. And so that sponsor relationship had to end. But I was like keeping a lot of the stuff inside me until like it built up too much. And I was like, blah, right? And then, like I have to talk about it a bit more on that side, like talk about what I'm going through. But it's been good on that side. Like we say to one another, if we can't talk about it through a text message or a phone call, just send through a shit emoji, and then we'll be on the phone to one another saying, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
Right? That's the thing there. But with Sarah too, like I know when she's like dealing with stuff that's in sobriety where it would affect her differently, like she needs time to process it too. And when she's ready, she'll say, hi, I'm gonna chat to you.
Hi.
Yeah, hi. And she'll tell me what she's going through.
Yeah.
But it's that mutual respect of like us trying to fix something, like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? Instead of like saying, let's take a step back, you support one another. When they're ready, they'll come to us on that side of things,
not
right?
like over barrel each other. Like...
Yeah. So it's good. She paces. So I know Sarah, she'll pace up and down and she'll just keep quiet. And then I'm like, okay, something's going on. And then the moment when she's like, okay, this is going on in my life, I'm like, okay, sweet, right?
She paces.
Yeah, and then I do the same thing. Like I get quiet or I get really like short of my text messages.
Yeah.
And then she's like, you okay? I'm like, well, I'm going through this. I'm going, blah, right? But it's for me to like string, like, I don't know what it is. It's for me to process it. Like my brain and my heart is at a point where I'm trying to leave this and come to this more, but trying to process it in a way where I don't know how to say things sometimes, right? And I don't want to go like word vomit in a text message or word vomit through a conversation. So yeah, so I think that's how it works for me, is that she knows my behavior, I know hers. And a lot of people close to me know that too now, is that, you know, I've got to be more upfront and honest with it. I got to talk about it a bit more. Instead of me being a man thinking I can, like, again, it comes back to that toxic masculinity with me. It's like, you know, I can fix this. I can come up with a solution by myself. If I come up with a solution by myself, then everyone thinks I'm doing fine, right? But sometimes it ends up the opposite way. So yeah.
With with Ilya, there was one time where he was like, I don't know, I was just like, wasn't myself that day, and he's like, did you go to a meeting today? He's like, did you see Cris today? He's like, have you been hanging out with Cris? He knows, like,
we vibe. We get along.
I was like, no, I haven't. And he's like, oh, okay, that's what's wrong, right? So he knows, like, and for me with isolation, like, I am such a homebody already. Like, I love to be at home baking and cooking. So it's like kind of different. I'm not isolating anymore in a depressing way. I'm just like at home enjoying my fucking alone time, or like baking and cooking, because that's, I like to be in the kitchen. So yeah, like when I was sick for the last month, I was home fucking for like 30 days.
30 days,
And at one point I was like, is this healthy? Like, I need to like get out and do something. But like I said, with that strong connection with my higher power, that's what got me through those 30 days. Like, if I didn't have those tools, I would have got depressed. I would have got frustrated and irritated and like self-pity. But yeah, no, I'm very happy that I have the tools these days.
Absolutely. The tools are what makes life worthwhile, right? I find. When we transition, okay, I'm going to ask you, Sara. When we transition out of this desperation, many of us get preoccupied with material things. We mistake success for security. When our priorities shift again, it may be a result of a different kind of change, a gradual realization that deeper satisfaction awaits us. How have your priorities changed, and what are the changes inside yourself that you see have brought these changes about?
I think when I got out of treatment, I was putting pressure on myself to like get up early and go to the gym. I don't think sometimes it's material stuff, like I'll go shopping, but not as much as I used to. But for me, I know, like, after the 30 days that I was sick just recently, when I got out of treatment, like, I would always be at Pilates for like 6 or 7 in the morning, and then I'd go to work and I'd be fucking drained by like 4 o'clock after work. And like, I would be in bed by 7 or 8. But what I really noticed is, like, I don't need to do all those things. I don't need to keep myself that busy just to be sober and sane. And yeah, it's, I think, releasing the pressure of myself, of like having that mind of wanting to just be fit, or like going to do the gym. Like, I have to do that. I don't have to do these things. I don't have to buy these things. Yeah, I think that was the main thing for me, was having a routine and trying to be so strict about it instead of just living life on life's terms, you know? Like, so I've let that go. Like, this year I've let that go. I'm not so, I have to go here by this time and I have to do this. So I think that was that for me.
Nice. Do you want me to repeat that, Cris?
Yeah, go for it. Yep.
Okay, when we transition out of this desperation, many of us get preoccupied with material things. We mistake success for security. When our priorities shift again, it may be a result of a different kind of change, a gradual realization that a deeper satisfaction awaits us. How have your priorities changed, and what are the changes inside yourself that you see have brought these changes about?
So for me, it was really big on my sanity and my serenity level, right? I remember that morning reading we would read as a group, page 420, we highlighted at the end of the big book, talking about how like our serenity level is, you know, that is more important. My expectations need to be lessened on certain things in life, right? So when I came out of treatment, like, first thing I realized was that I was either playing catch up or slow down. Like, going into treatment, I thought everything would be paused, and then suddenly coming out of treatment, it's like the world keeps revolving. Unfortunately, life keeps living, right? So what I had to really hone into was my expectations of what, you know, the life, like what life would be after treatment, and the expectations being linked to my level of my serenity and my peace, right? So of course the first couple of weeks was hard, but then I had to keep going back to that passage we read on page 420 about our serenity level and how it's directly proportional to our expectations. And like, the higher my serenity level, the lower my expectations are, right?
Yeah.
And so there's times where, like, yeah, like I grew up in a culture of, you got to have the career, you got to have the house, got to have the car, you got to have the look, right? All that sort of stuff to show you that you're doing well. Now it's like, when I get like that, when I get antsy, I know for a fact that it's the expectations that's kicking back in for me. And it really comes down to my ego, that false sense of pride and that ego that drove me to where I got to, right? So, you know, there's times where, you know, like my first 3 months was good of like working recovery. And then I think my last 3 months, 3 to 4 months now, it's been tested. Don't get me wrong. There's been times where I said to Sarah, I'm like, but again, it's on me, right? Because I know that question I love that question, because it just reminds me of like my sanity and my serenity level. And I know it comes back to the emotional sobriety, right? You know, they're the things that I really look onto on that. But don't get me wrong, I'm still human. So, you know, living, you know, 38 years on this planet, and then having this, like, I'm guessing this outlook that society shows you, especially in the generation I grew up in, right? And the people I surrounded myself with a number of times, a lot of my mentors in the past that said, you got to have this, you got to have that, you got to be in this part of your life, but they would never show you the downfalls. How did they get there? It was always that, this is the right path to go on. This is, you know, this is all rainbows and butterflies and unicorns and stuff, instead of the doom and gloom. So I'm slowly seeing a different aspect of recovery, and especially people in the rooms where they share about their, you know, experience, strength and hope, but in a way that's vulnerable on that side. And a lot of them, 90% of the times they take out of it, is that their serenity level is just it's at that, like, I don't know, you know how you hit a tuning fork and you hear that tune and it's like ding, that's where I like to be with it, right? It's just like, yeah, just that vibration of that level. So yeah.
You want to be in tune with your universe.
Yeah, that's it. In tune. Yeah. So yeah.
I really liked both your answers there. And for myself, I'll just say, you know, how has my priorities changed, and what are the changes inside myself that I see that have brought these changes about? You know, I spent a lot of my life mistaking success for security. And success and security don't really equate. You know, like it was my most successful period in my life that fueled my addiction.
Yes.
You know, like it was absolutely like working to make the very most that I could make, that enabled me also to be able to use all I wanted to use. You know, like when they were talking options about, you know, stealing or blah blah blah, and I was like, I just always had tons. Like I was just like, I had tons. I got the worst into it in the point when I had the most in life.
Yeah.
But it was never security. It never was like emotional security. It never strengthened my love with those people around me. And, you know, like I had a house burned down when I was 25 and lost everything in an hour and 20 minutes. And possessions don't define me. I learned that from that moment. Possessions don't define me. And I have the ability as a being to restart my life at any moment. It might not be the life that I had before, but that's not the point. The point is that I'm a survivor in the sense that I know I can survive. And coming out of treatment, it's first of all, I really for myself knew that I had to make my program my priority. Like there was no way I could be a halftime program person. I am just like I'm on or off, and middle is a really hard place for me to even envision. And it's like either I make time for my program in my day, or my program will disappear. I also have ruined my brain for memory. So by tomorrow, I can forget what I did today. You know, like it's a 24-hour program because I have no short-term memory left. Like, I just gotta like if you took me 3 days out of my program, I wouldn't even remember half the stuff I was doing 4 days ago. But you know, what it really is for me is that it's just like I give more of a fuck about my serenity than about $1 for you to treat me like crap. And that's made my job more difficult because there's a lot of people who don't treat you nicely in my occupation. And yet you just suck that up for the money. But when you can't suck that up anymore, it's kind of like I literally have foregone work, even though like, you know, it's also too like I've come out of options at my brokest point in 22 years. Like I've never been in more of a financial jeopardy, but I'm still like also probably had my greatest last 12 months of joy. You know, like money doesn't make you happy. Money gives you options. But
it is so true.
some of those options are real fucking toxic.
You
know, and the more you own, the more owns you. Like the more knickknacks and shit you have, that just means more shit you have to maintain. How do you maintain that? You work more for more money to do that. Like it's just it's like talk about creating the hamster wheel. You know, like we have pared down our budget to such an extreme level right now that I feel like you know, the lesson behind what's happening with me right now is to enable me to live simpler and to like prep for retirement when I will have less, you know, and it's like, how I like, we're getting really good at not spending money. When you don't have money, you can be really good at not spending money, or you can be really good at building more debt. And I've done the debt thing. I'm at the max of that. So now it's like working the debt down and still maintaining a modest lifestyle. And so for me, it's just like my priorities are my family, my program, my, you know, my health, and you know, and really kind of continuing on my living amends. I feel like I have just started, you know, like just started them. Like I feel like they're just starting to be believed. You know, like how many fucking times have we made false promises? That like a few months later didn't mean shit.
I know.
And it's just like finally, like I can see in their eyes, they're like, wow, you're real different. Like, look at you go in Mexico, walking by all the people drinking and drugs. Like, you know, like in this town, the drug dealers know me by name. Like, and I'm not, that's not something to be proud of, but they're just like best customer ever. Like, you know, and you know, but it's like, honestly, like I haven't had a moment of temptation. The only thing that I had a moment of temptation on is they still allow smoking in restaurants. And I was like, for one moment, I was like, fuck. I was like, I could go buy a pack of smokes right now. Like I'm getting enough secondhand smoke that it fired up the addiction in there. And I was like, whoa, I'm like, I thought I was done with this.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
You got another question, Sarah?
I do. Yeah. Who like, who was your go-to person when you hit your rock bottom? Like, who are you comfortable telling?
So for me, so looking back now, my active addiction, I think there was two people in my life where I went to that I went, and I remember it. It was one of the ladies that I work with, Kim. She was my work wife, I said, for one, because we shared some trauma in our lives that brought us closer together on that side. And I think for me, it was that. And I think it was mainly just her, I think, for one, because there was a moment in my active addiction. It was like a week before I went into treatment. And she knew that I had taken an leave of absence from work. And she rang me up and she said, like, are you okay? And I broke down on the phone and I said, no, I'm not okay. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I don't know how I'm going to get through tonight. And she's like, well, I'm here for you. And she's like, I know where you need to be. You need to be at a meeting. And I said, yeah, I'll get to a meeting. I never went to a meeting. I went to my dealers and I picked up. And then I think she came to my graduation and she said, that night you called me and I have never heard you so desperate in your life where you're like, I don't know what to do anymore. And she was the type of like friend where she would not push anything or she would not tell me what to do. She would say, you know what you need to do. I'm here. I won't judge or anything like that there. But that night she shared to me at my graduation day, she's like, I do not know. I laid in bed with Darren and that was her husband, and was like, I don't know if I'm going to get a phone call tomorrow saying that they found Cris dead or he's hurt himself somehow, right? And Darren's like, all you can do is just pray and hope that he's in a better place. And then I think that's when that week afterwards, that active addiction got me really bad. But she knows now, like where I need to be and that. And I do respect her a lot because I find when I came out of treatment, people that knew about me going to treatment was like pouncing on me. They were like, how are you? What are you doing? Let's reconnect. And I had to take a big step back and say, no, I'm doing this for myself. And she even said to me, like, I remember messaging her and we've caught up a few times, but she was like, working in healthcare, you sort of have to give that person their space to like build their foundation in the first year without jeopardizing a lot of their stuff. Right. And she knew me to the point where she's like, I love you. I know that you're going through something and I know that you need to focus on yourself. So you're not people pleasing or you're not throwing yourself into a situation where you're trying to rebuild these connections. She's like, you need to focus on yourself. And I understand life is getting, tougher at times, especially in recovery, because she's dealt with addiction in her life. Right. And she was like, I'm just going to give you your space. And whenever you're ready to like, reconnect and kick off the friendship again, I'm here for you on that. So she knows like the rock bottom, but she knows I'm in a better place for it, right? So I think just having, I don't know, like for me as an addict in recovery, it's like people are so hyper vigilant when you're going through a bad day, or they expect you to come out of treatment and you're working a program to be this like, I've done this, you should be good at that, And it's like, no, it's not like that. Like, it's like having a baby, like, with being a baby, you're learning to like walk again. So you got to start off on your belly and work your way back up, right? Like you've hit your rock bottom and, you're starting to learn the fundamentals of having to live life again, but in recovery.
Yeah.
So that was a big point for me.
And who would be your like go-to now?
Yeah, this one here should be my go-to now. Like
that's what she wanted to hear.
Yeah. No, Sarah's like, honestly, Sarah's a big one for me because we've shared a lot of stuff, like a lot of the stuff I've gone through back home and like where I am now. So I know that Sarah's my safe place, big time. I would say from a female aspect, definitely Sarah, my sister, is my big one too. As well as like out of like the guys, it'd be like a lot of the guys that I have in my fellowship now, like Josiah and all them, my close. Ilya is a big one too. Yeah, Ilya, her
Yeah.
partner, he's a big help for me too. Like, I don't trust a lot of people, especially men in my life. I would say I've got probably 5 people, like strong men in my life that I trust, and one of them is her partner, because you know, we chat, and it's like, you know, he understands addiction well, right? He really does. He really does understand addiction. So I have him too. So it's a big help for me on that side, right? And it's hard too as guys, because again, we want to make sure that we're doing fine. We want to show that we can be the provider, we can be the fixer, we can come up with the solutions, right? We can be that safe place, but at times, like, where's our safe place? So that's a big part for me. Yeah.
Nice. Could you repeat the question, Sarah?
Yeah.
Because I need it. I need it.
Yes. So who was your trust person that you went to when you hit your rock bottom? Like, who did you confine into about going on about getting your help? And who would you lean on now that you are in recovery?
So when my event happened, I was like at a conference of like 1,000 people in a big hotel in Vancouver. And so my 2 roommates were 2 good friends. One who back then I considered him a best friend. And that experience was so traumatic for him watching me die. He abandoned me until after treatment. So there was no conversation with he wouldn't even answer his phone after that night.
Wow.
And then my family was like didn't want to talk to me until I got to options. And I had to so I kind of like detoxed at home for 13 days. My family wouldn't even talk to me. So at that rock bottom, I had fucking no one. Like I remember feeling completely alone inside those depths. And then since then, you know, like Gabriel's my calibration brother. We've got like we can call each other, be like, hey, is this crazy or is this all right? And you know, I'll be like, crazy, don't do it. Or he'll be like, oh yeah, that's crazy, don't do it. Like, you know, like or we're like, oh no, that's okay, go ahead. You know, like because sometimes we don't know. I mean, I literally felt like I was so lost in delusions that right when I left options, I'm like, I don't trust me. I don't trust me. I don't trust me. And I still don't trust me entirely. Like, I think that sometimes I'm still pretty good at warping spiritual principles into Milan's desires. Like, you know,
Okay. I get
you
that.
know, and so calibration's good. You know, although even you know he's relapsed a ton of times. You know, my good friend Andre has been someone that I confide in, and now I've kind of got a really good group of sponsees that
Nice.
you know, like I feel like it's kind of a two-way street happening with a lot of them, where you know, like we're talking, and you know, I inevitably end up getting advice as well as giving some advice, you know, and then probably like he does some of the co-hosting with me on the shows. My friend Andrew, he lives in Virginia Beach. Never met him, but you know, him and I have kind of become really super close friends through the program and through doing the podcast. So yeah, I would say that that's pretty much you know where it's at. I feel like at my rock bottom, I had burned pretty much every bridge possible.
Yeah.
You know, and like even if there was like even if my rock bottom wasn't so public, I just don't think anybody would have wanted to hear at that point.
Yeah.
You know, and that's okay. You know, like one of the things I learned is that I'm a big boy and I'm lying in the bed I made. You
Yes.
know, like it's my pair of pants to put back on and my zipper and buttons to do back up. You know, and that's what I'm doing. You know, and that's and all we can do is change and maintain. You know, like yeah. Cool. Hey, Sarah, you want to answer that one?
Yeah. So for me, when I knew that I needed to get help, who gave me the pep talk and really like gave me the inspiration to actually go. Like Ilya had called me and said, I think you need treatment. And I avoided it for a couple of days. and then my cousin Junior, he went to treatment. He's about 16 months sober now.
18 months.
18 months
18
sober
months.
now.
Yeah.
He went to somewhere out of Kamloops, I think, but I seen him go. He put himself in there, and he went for 3 months, and yeah, he gave me the inspiration. Like we were texting each other, and I was like, should I go? Like, should I not go? And I asked him like what it was like and what he got out of it. And I just remember talking to him like the day before and the day of, like minutes before I walked into options. It was like 10 in the morning. And I even still had my doubts, but yeah, him and Ilya for sure. And then it was Susie who I had called. Ilya sent me her number, so I called Susie right away. And now, of course, it would be Chris. Like, I feel he's my safe person. He's my yellow card. And my sister-in-law, Natasha, she is too in recovery and went to options as well. And I should have, like, I feel like before, because she was like calling Shirley and Susie about me going into treatment, but I was too embarrassed at the time to call her, and I had already burnt that bridge, like you said. So it would definitely be Chris, Ilya, and Junior again for sure.
Nice. Well, I gotta say, like, it was very strange, but I'm like, oh, I'm jealous they had someone. Like, there was like, it was a lonely place, and when you're in there, like, I mean, I think it's easier to stay inside your insanity by yourself.
Yeah.
That's why the disease wants to isolate us, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So do you got another question for me, Chris?
I'm just trying to think. It's been like, I'm trying to think of another one now because I only had them 3, I think.
Okay.
So this one's on the spot. So what sort of advice or suggestions would you give to someone out there that's listening that, is going through their rock bottom, right? And they don't know they're going through their rock bottom. Right?
That's good.
I would say the one thing I would say is you don't have to lose it all to be a rock bottom. Don't think you have to be living under a bridge collecting cans, like whatever. I guarantee whatever your conception of rock bottom is, it doesn't have to go that far. And I would probably and if it was a person that knew nothing about the program like I did, I would probably sit down and discuss what I see as an addict, and as opposed to what they may think is an addict,
Yes, I like that. I like that a lot.
Like, you don't have to use every day to be an addict. You don't have to drink every day to be an addict. But there's other telltale signs. And that ability to not, like, man, for me, I would run out of endorphins when using or drinking. And then it's like, when I was out of endorphins, it was like I would have to shut down for a few days and like sleep and eat. And so being able to even stop for that period made me think I wasn't an addict forever. And then that wasn't the case. So, I would probably sit down and say, things don't have to get as bad as what you think they do. And if it was somebody that I saw, I think I would just sit down and talk to them about addiction for a bit. Yeah, I think so.
That.
Sarah?
Ask me again.
What advice would you give someone that you're seeing that's going through their rock bottom?
I would suggest to try and let go of that fear of and like that fear of being honest and admitting to yourself that you have a problem. Maybe try, reading some of the literature with each other, or like showing them how you get through the day. Yeah, sitting down with each other and just like giving them your experience of your rock bottom and showing them how you got out of it. Yeah, I think, yeah.
I like that. I think for me, just thinking about it, like it would be what I was missing at the time, and that was love. Love and acceptance, right? And no judgment. I think for me on that, because I know for my rock bottom, it was like I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel like I was accepted.
Yeah.
Right. And just having them two there just gave like, I remember like Kim, that time when I rang her up and I was like saying what I said to her on the phone, she gave me a bit of hope, right? So having love and acceptance and hope, like them three little ingredients, like therefore it would really help for me to like show that to a person that is going through their rock bottom. And like you said, Milan, is just like going through that, I don't know, like we're similar on what we thought an addict was, right? And getting to know you a little bit better, it's like, you know, being more like emotionally and spiritually connected in that sense, right? On that, instead of having that sort of pretense of like, well, again, we're not pushing a cart, we're not on the street, we're not, you know, collecting cans, right? So having that sort of, I'm guessing that sort of insight to give to someone else too. So yeah.
Nice. Okay, well, I got one more question and then maybe we'll wrap it up after that.
Yeah.
Okay, Sarah. Complacency lies in the gulf between desperation and passion. Not only do we risk losing what we have, we miss out on the opportunity to get even better. Not seeing the hope that lies before us, we stop seeing the fear that lingers behind us. How have you seen complacency replace desperation in yourself? And what have you done in your program to ensure you remain in your recovery fever?
That's a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Complacency kills.
Oh, yeah.
It does, totally. I find, you know, keeping my house clean and because I feel like once I get like a little lazy, then I feel like that is like another rock bottom for me. Like I feel like my mind isn't clear, and you know, just picking up after yourself over little things, like it makes a huge difference for me, anyways. And I find that, you know, working at options is really, really helping me in my journey. And I'm really grateful for that. So like I'm there a lot, so I feel safe a lot, right? Keeping in touch with my sponsor, even on a good day, like just talking to her on the daily, giving her a quick 2-minute phone call, like that helps my recovery a lot. And staying in contact with people in recovery like Cris. And I talked to a lot of my girlfriends that I was in treatment in the beginning with who don't live here anymore, but we still stay in contact, like Zoe, Kim, she's in Kamloops. You know, just making recovery the thing of my day. And going to meetings is a huge thing. And like attending your home group. Like I had a thing with my home groups I was about to switch, and it didn't feel right. So you have to listen to your heart. Like my heart stuck on the Friday night meetings, and so that's where I chose to stay. Yeah, I think that's it for me.
Okay. You want me to repeat the question, Cris?
Yeah, sure, why not? So
yeah. Complacency lies in the gulf between desperation and passion. Not only do we risk losing what we have, we miss out on the opportunity to get even better. Not seeing the hope that lies before us, we stop seeing the fear that lingers behind us. How have you seen complacency replace desperation in yourself? And what have you done in your program to ensure you remain in your recovery fever?
For me, it comes down to my sanity and my serenity level, for one. And then more so too, it's just the basic things. I think for me, what I've learned in treatment, right? Like making my bed every morning.
Yes.
Doing my gratitude list every morning. Like if I don't, like, you know, I used to send it out to a lot of people, my gratitude list. But I was like, am I doing it for them or am I doing it for myself?
Yes, I felt that too. That's why I was like, you know.
So doing my gratitude list. You know, I thank my higher power every morning on that side of things. And more so, like, I know if I get, like, a meeting is important for me. Like, Sarah knows that. I'm like a meeting junkie. I have to go to a meeting because I know that if I don't go to a meeting and I start isolating, that's when my ego kicks in, or that's when, you know, it's like, what is it? Being like complacency, you know, it's like, I know that my addiction's there. The moment that I start becoming complacent, like not going to a meeting, not praying and meditating, not doing the basics of making my bed, right? Or my gratitude list, the cracks start to form, or that door of addiction starts to, you know, slowly open up. And when it starts to open up, that's when, like, I know a lot of, like, my false sense of pride and the ego comes in. And when they come in, that's the last part that happens with it there. So, and then it's just to stay connected. Like the fellowship in Kelowna, in both fellowships, AA and NA, is so strong. Like, I'd be stupid not to lean on them people, you know, going to options, going back there. Like, I can only keep what I have by giving it away. So going back and doing service work in some sense, I may not have a service position, but I do service I show up at group, you know, I show up, you know, some games nights. I always go back on a games night if there's a games night at options, things like that, to give back to people, you know, that are going through the same thing, right? Because, you know, like, I think I can speak for all of us, like, we know how fun recovery is, right? And how much of it a life is. So we don't want to keep that to ourselves. We want to give it back to people, especially people that are going through treatment for the first time, right? So, yeah.
Nice. That was well put. I love that. So, you know, how have you seen complacency replace desperation in yourself? And what have you done in your program to ensure you remain in your recovery fever? So, you know, for myself, the very first people I saw relapse after options were being complacent.
Yes.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
I have never seen a relapse that didn't start with complacency.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it can't happen. Like, obviously I'm not around that long. But you know, it's certainly complacency is the gateway drug to relapse.
It
know?
is. Yeah.
And,
no, it is.
and so every time I've had a friend that has relapsed from complacency, it makes me look at my program. It makes me go, what is weak in my program? Like, I literally, I remember the very first time I was like, okay, got this, check, you know, I'm surrendered, check, you know, like, and, you know, so it's, seeing other people's complacency has kept me from being complacent. Sometimes I think that, sometimes I think that I could almost let my personality get in front of my principles in meetings. And I've had a couple meetings that have really been turned off from a couple people. And that has almost reduced my meeting frequency. And you know, so it's like trying not to let my personality get in the way of my recovery fever, and to keep that fresh and to keep that alive. And so, you know, like, running my program, it's funny, you were talking about gratitudes and the gratitude list and doing it for other people. And you know, for me, I did affirmations before I came into treatment. So I like to do the gratitude list, but sometimes I feel like I have gratitude to give to others.
Yes.
You know, like there's days where, man, I'm struggling to do my list, but I do it. And then I like get the reflected back from the other people ones. and I'm like, their gratitudes remind me of things to be grateful for.
Yeah.
So I do like the group gratitude list.
Yeah.
Just for that, because I feel like some days I'm pulling someone through and some days they're pulling me through.
Yeah.
And that for myself, you know, and one of the biggest things is that,
Yeah.
you know, remaining a student inside the program.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so what it's doing
Yeah.
for me is like going for different literature, you
Yeah.
know, trying to explore more things, keeping active in a set
Yeah.
of steps. I'm working with a lot of sponsees.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's going on there? You guys got something?
No, it's the iPad's about to die, so she's put it plugged it
Okay.
in.
You know
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm pretty much done anyway.
Yeah.
I just want to say, hey,
Yeah.
it was amazing, guys. I'm super grateful that that you joined me. And for everybody out there, tune in next time for more recovery fun. Bye-bye, everybody. And I love you. Please help us help others. If you like what you've seen here today, please subscribe and share this podcast and help us get to 100 followers. We're looking for interaction with our audience. So please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan Starcic on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you.